Before his death, my grandpa told me that if I take to heart only one thing that he's ever taught me, it should be this. Personal integrity is the most important thing we have as individuals. I thought this was a pretty bold statement about a word I hadn't considered much, but I filed it away with the other lessons and moved on. I guess I didn't realize it at the time, but his message, as well as the example he set as a man of honor, did have an impact on me. Not immediately, but the seed was planted. Over the years that passed, I didn't always choose the correct or moral path. In fact, I made some pretty serious mistakes and found myself in a lot of miserable situations.
Get out of here, I said!
But at the bottom of those downward spirals, I'd remember my grandpa's example, his lesson, and I'd start over to rebuild myself and my life. 20 years have passed since he gave me this important message. Looking back over the hills and valleys of those 2 decades, it's easy to recognize that each setback came at a time when my personal integrity was at its lowest. Each success when it was strongest. At 36 years old, having gone through years of unnecessary pain, shame, misery, and struggle, I now recognize the true value of what my grandpa was attempting to install in my life all those years ago. I now understand what he did. That personal integrity is in fact the most important thing I have as an individual. The word integrity comes from the Latin word integer, meaning whole or complete. So personal integrity would therefore mean personal wholeness or personal completeness. Pretend you and your life are symbolized by a tower under construction. Choices come up each day that can add to the integrity, the stability, the wholeness of that tower. And choices come up which will certainly weaken, divide, and compromise it. Sometimes the moral choices require more work and personal sacrifice to opt for, but they almost always offer much greater gains to the overall construction as well. Immoral choices are vast in supply, as are those based on vice, jealousy, anger, etc. Choices based on these motivations take almost no effort to pursue, but build a tower out of them and you will incorporate flaws, weaknesses, and inherent setbacks in your progress. Now look out over the landscape of our modern world, a vast civilization of unstable towers. Each one represents more weakness than stability, more setback than growth, more corruption than wholeness. Over time, many towers lose so much integrity that they fall, and often they affect others drastically in the process. This is a good analogy for addressing a fundamental and worsening problem with our communities and our society as a whole. Many people today live their whole lives without even understanding integrity as a concept, as an asset, as a choice between right and wrong, or easy in every situation. Integrity was once a common virtue, instilled and nurtured in more families than not. Today it is all but forgotten in a culture of promoted pathological narcissism, in the culture of me, exemplified by the personal shrines people build to themselves with traps such as Facebook and Twitter, a culture of people obsessed with the self. Personal integrity is quickly dying with older generations, and each new generation is becoming increasingly selfish, cruel, and without basic empathy. People care less about how they are affecting other human beings today than they do about glorifying themselves in their own minds. What can be done about a situation so dire? Let's look again at the analogy of the towers. Those towers with structural integrity stand out because they're hard to find. They're an enormous asset to the world. Though there are far too few of them, each one has the potential to positively affect many surrounding towers in a number of ways. Inspiration. Inspiration and example are the most obvious. By standing impressively above the rest with obvious stability and strength, they provide contrast and example to the unstable and the mundane. Perhaps builders around them at some point recognize their positive example and wish to emulate it by beginning to opt for better building materials choices themselves. Stability. Having integrity means you are whole, but it also means you possess stability and a strength that can anchor a family, a group, or a community. A strong person can be the support which shores up a weak structure before it collapses, and they can stabilize and even shelter their families and community. So, what is personal integrity, and what are the basic qualities? There are many, but here are a few. Authenticity. Resist the urge to compartmentalize your life into different personas. Your outer and inner are connected parts of one whole. Truth. One with integrity tells the truth always, and the truth feels good and right. Truth is not subjective. It does not shift or change with culture or society. Promises. Words are meaningless without intent and follow-through. Mean what you say and follow through regardless of personal loss or gain. Compassion. Compassion is the keen awareness of the interdependence of all things. Compassion is kindness, forgiveness, and empathy. Responsibility. You are responsible for the talent that has been entrusted to you. Don't blame your circumstances for what you are able to change. Craftsmanship. If the project is worth doing, it is worth doing well and completely. Pour yourself into your projects. The respect you show in your work, you show in yourself. The legacy of personal integrity. There are many obvious benefits to leading a life of integrity. Choosing integrity sets you apart from others. It instills you with confidence and stability and helps immensely with decision-making. It creates trust in others and vastly extends your influence in the world. A legacy is strictly defined as something we leave behind when we exit this world. By that definition, a legacy could be anything from a trust fund left to your kids to debt left for your spouse. But those are just situations that we leave behind. A true legacy is a galvanizing example of strong character we set for successive generations. Teaching your children and grandchildren to be undivided, authentic, honest people makes it more likely they will do the same for their children and grandchildren. Living as a strong role model for honorable behavior sets wheels in motion that continue and perpetuate themselves outward into the world through those you touch. Personal integrity is the one true legacy we can leave with this world. My grandfather passed away in 2012, but his legacy lives on. The example he set as a man of honor with integrity has survived his death. 4 years after he passed away, and 20 years after he imparted this message to me, it continues to work in the world as I spread this message to you. So I ask you, what will your legacy be?